Early in 2011, Libya was faced with a chaotic insurrection, partly inspired by the revolts in Tunisia and Egypt, and partly led by Islamic fundamentalists. In March, NATO forces, mainly from France and Britain, began aerial bombardment on the pretext of protecting civilians, but the intervention sided with the rebels and armed them in violation of the UN Charter. With NATO's help, the opposition forces occupied the capital and later carried out the extrajudicial killing of Gaddafi. Since NATO's, quote, humanitarian intervention and the murder of Gaddafi, the country's territory has become a battleground between feuding warlords and Islamic fundamentalist groups, including the Islamic State. Libya no longer has a functioning government, and the gains in public welfare under Gaddafi have been greatly diminished.
Gaddafi was against radicals, and we are targeted by them. We are targeted by Osama bin Laden because we do not practice Sharia in Libya. And that's war against terrorism, and Gaddafi started that war way before George Bush. I just felt like I had to point these out because the world has no idea about what's going on.
Attempts to cut spending for combat operations in Afghanistan to hasten U.S. troop withdrawals were voted down, as were efforts to bar the Pentagon from using funds to enforce the NATO-led no-fly zone over Libya.
Because of the oil, simple as that. They don't care about what the African people think. Democracy for them is not for Africa. It's only for Western country.
To date, the U.S. spends $10 million a day bombing Libya while involved in war in Afghanistan and still occupies Iraq with 47,000 troops. Part of that spending has included 801 strike missions against Libya.
Our most effective alliance, NATO, has taken command of the enforcement of the arms embargo and the no-fly zone. Last night, NATO decided to take on the additional responsibility of protecting Libyan civilians.
Anti-Gaddafi rebels freed a prison in Tripoli. Today, CNN has learned that among those liberated inmates are hundreds of men who are believed to be supporters of al-Qaeda. They're now on the loose. The man who uncovered this story is CNN terrorism analyst Paul Cruikshank. He has been to that prison in the past, joins us live from London. Paul, give us details on just who is now free in Libya.
Well, what we're hearing, Drew, is that up to 600 prisoners from this prison are believed to be pro-al-Qaeda militants, people who are imprisoned there by Gaddafi, who've been there for several years.
We had a unique ability to stop that violence.
Both Sarkozy and Cameron have announced that they will continue helping the rebels. Particularly, Nicolas Sarkozy has said that NATO will continue bombing Libya and military facilities here in Libya till the rebels take control over the whole of the country.
Именно после свержения Каддафи, при активном участии отдельных европейских стран, поток беженцев стал абсолютно бесконтрольным.
Слушайте, люди из НАТО, вы бомбите стену, которая не пропускала поток миграции в Европу. Стену, которая останавливала террористов Аль-Каиды. Этой стеной была Ливия. Вы разрушаете ее. Вы идиоты.
As first a few, then up to 9 African men are shoved into a gatehouse, arrested by anti-Gaddafi forces. They're terrified, sweating, praying, some are crying. They're convinced they're going to be shot. They keep whispering to us, stay here with us, stay here, please.
In just 1 month, the United States has worked with our international partners to mobilize a broad coalition, secure an international mandate to protect civilians, stop an advancing army, prevent a massacre.
This is Hesham Mansour, a 27-year-old Libyan soldier and patriot. He was beaten to death by a crowd who called him a mercenary, depantsed, abused, and then left hanging on a fence.
That we would focus our unique capabilities on the front end of the operation, and that we would transfer responsibility to our allies and partners.
Here is a suspected mercenary being shown out of the same hospital. Under new rebel management, his kind weren't welcome for treatment there. When he was unable to walk knocked out on his own from blood loss. He was physically dragged out, tossed on the sidewalk next to the garbage cans, and then hacked some more.
Thanks to the extraordinary sacrifices of our troops and the determination of our diplomats, we are hopeful about Iraq's future. But regime change there took 8 years, thousands of American and Iraqi lives, and nearly $1 trillion. That is not something we can afford to repeat in Libya. The risk and costs of this operation to our military and to American taxpayers will be reduced significantly.
This whole thing only cost us $1 billion, as opposed to $1 trillion. Not a single U.S. troop was on the ground. Not a single U.S. Troop was killed or injured. And that, I think, is a recipe for success in the future. I am both surprised and deeply humbled by the decision of the Nobel Committee. The Nobel Peace Prize has not just been used to honor specific achievement, it's also been used as a means to give momentum to a set of causes. And that is why I will accept this award as a call to action.
We will work with the international community to provide assistance to the people of Libya who need food for the hungry and medical care for the wounded. We will safeguard the more than $33 billion that was frozen from the Gaddafi regime so that it's available to rebuild Libya.
You went for humanitarian purposes, yet 50,000 Libyans lie dead because the West wanted access to the wealth of Libya.
In this particular country, Libya, at this particular moment, we were faced with the prospect of violence on a horrific scale. I made it clear that Gaddafi had lost the confidence of his people and the legitimacy to lead.
Go to hell, Obama. We're not afraid from you. We're not afraid. We are with Muammar Gaddafi. This is the Libyan people, not you. This is the Libyan people. All the Libyan people with Muammar Gaddafi. You are nothing, Obama. You are nothing. And the NATO, where is the safety that the NATO talk about? Let us live in peace. Muammar Gaddafi, give us the safety. Give me the freedom. Give me the freedom. Give the Libyan people the freedom.
To be blunt, we went down that road in Iraq.
The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing.
And so at my direction, America led an effort with our allies at the United Nations Security Council to pass a historic resolution that authorized a no-fly zone to stop the regime's attacks from the air and further authorized all necessary measures to protect the Libyan people.
With shouts of dissent focusing on the U.S. role in bombings over Libya, protesters marched under intense heat in front of the White House.
Foreign intervention and bombing does not bring peace, nor democracy, nor freedom to any people. It kills many innocent civilians.
Since March, the U.S. started using drones to bomb Libya in a UN-mandated no-fly zone there. Protesters here cite reports from the Libyan Health Ministry claiming more than 700 people have been killed and more than 4,000 wounded. The Obama administration says it's carrying out military strikes for humanitarian reasons and save lives. But protesters here aren't convinced.
Since when did NATO show that it cares about all the refugees? Look at Iraq. Look at Afghanistan. I mean, look at Palestine. For years, the Palestinians have been suffering under terrible oppression.
Obama himself has been rebuked by members of Congress, both Republican and Democrat, for not seeking congressional approval beforehand. And U.S. opposition to military operations in Libya is growing in general.
Signs that U.S. war policy will change are doubtful.
Cities and towns were shelled, mosques were destroyed, and apartment buildings reduced to rubble.
Most of the targets have been civilian.
From the top floors, we can see the fighting raging outside as NTC forces shell sniper positions using everything at their disposal. Well, I'm actually standing in what was someone's bedroom. The sheer devastation and the destruction to this civilian area is hard to describe. According to NTC forces, this building was targeted by NATO missiles because it was being used by pro-Gaddafi forces as a base in this civilian area.
Living in the southern part of Libya, where he talks about 12 times a day, they are bombed in the little town in the south where they live. Bombed by NATO. NATO claims, as they always do, that it is a military site that they're bombing. And they're bombing the same places over and over again. How many times do you have to destroy the so-called military assets? Terrorizing these people 12 times a day for 3 months.
In the face of the world's condemnation, Gaddafi chose to escalate his attacks, launching a military campaign against the Libyan people. Innocent people were targeted for killing. Hospitals and ambulances were attacked.
This is for Obama and you, Sarkozy. You said you want to protect the civilians. Those are the civilians you want to protect inside the hospital. This is not military place. This is hospital, female and surgical department in a hospital. You want to protect only civilians, bomb on their heads. This is the blood of the civilians from a hospital. Those the civilians you want to protect. Thank you very much.
Nearly 700,000 men, women, and children who sought their freedom from fear. Military jets and helicopter gunships were unleashed upon people who had no means to defend themselves against assaults from the air. One young Libyan who came to his aid said, "We are your friends. We are so grateful to those men who are protecting the skies."
You said that you are coming here to Libya to protect the civilians, but the truth, you are attacking the civilians. So what? And you are make this as a reason as a cover to do every what you want under it. So I want to say for you, do every what you want. And the funny thing, you are saying for our leader Muammar Gaddafi to go out. We're out. Muammar Gaddafi in every heart of Libyan people. If you want him to go out, you should go for every heart and take it, Muammar Gaddafi, from them. So we are with our leader Muammar Gaddafi, and we will never give up from him. You pumping us because you think we will give up and we will scary or afraid of, but you are wrong. We are with our leader Muammar Gaddafi. Do ever what you want, but you are still with him.
The United States will not be able to dictate the pace and scope of this change. Only the people of the region can do that. But we can make a difference. As one Libyan said, for the first time, we finally have hope that our nightmare of 40 years will soon be over.
بلادنا يضربوا فيها يدمروا في بلادهم يضربوا فيها معمر بوم على تضربوا فيه يضربوا فيه الله ومعمر وليبيا وبس الكلاب بس وقرار جردان سندرنا لهم هم يضربوا ويقصوا سندرنا لهم الكلاب الله ومعمر ليبيا وبس قاعدين يضربوا صبح وليل والبلد الناس راقدين يضربوا فيهم سندرنا له وعناه يضربوا طيارات زعلان يضربوا حرام عليهم يضربوا في بلادنا